So here we have our Collaborate window. We're logged in, we're ready to go. Now what do we do with all of these crazy icons all over the screen? Well, we have four main areas. We have our audio and video section, so anybody who is talking or on a webcam will see their name and or video feed right in this space here. Under the participants, this is where everybody in the class who is logged in will appear. And then under the chat, this chat bar is where you can type your message, hit the enter key, and anybody who's online will be able to see you typing. Now if you notice, while I am typing, I have an icon right here which looks like a little bubble. And that means that I'm typing something even though it's gibberish. And so as long as that's active, you know that the user is trying to type a response, and you should give them some time to do so. Like that. Once they hit enter or they stop typing, that icon will go away. You're also going to have this raise hand icon here. And what that does is if you have a question and you click on this, the instructor should hear a ting noise. This becomes red, and then they're going to see whoever has their hand raised, they will immediately come to the top of the participant list. So the instructor can easily see you in this area if you have a question. Now don't forget that once your question is answered, you have to come back to this hand icon, left click again, and now your hand is now lowered. If the instructor wants you to do a poll, this is where the check mark comes into play. So you can choose a yes, no, or none response. So if I choose yes, you can see now that I have a check mark next to my name, and we have a total as well. So total yeses, total nos. And you can click on clear or the none to clear your answer and go back to just this plain Jane username. If you're going to be going away from the keyboard, maybe you have to go to the bathroom or there's a crime outside and you have to go save the world, this is where the AFK button comes into play. So if you click on this little icon here, we will see that you are away. And now we know that we shouldn't call on you because you're not going to respond. And if you don't respond, we know why. So if you leave your computer, please mark yourself as away. And when you come back, click this again to make yourself available. It's really critical for keeping the flow of the course moving fast. And last but not least, under participants, you have the option of choosing emoticons. And there's a very basic list here. If the instructor is going too fast, you can say, hey, slow down, buddy. And this will go away on its own after a few seconds, so it's not a permanent feature like these other three are. And then you can applaud, you can give them a smiley face, and you can even do that in chat as well, or just voice chat here. Now you can drag any of these windows and undock them if you want to reposition them anywhere on your screen. And if you do this and you just get this mess, you can always reset your layout by going to Window, under View, and then Restore Default Layout. And now everything is back in its original place. Audio is minimized. So next to each of these settings here as well, we have this little black triangle that you can use to minimize or maximize a section. Now, if you're not the instructor, maybe you don't want to see the participants. You want to focus more on the chat and the video and the whiteboard. And you can do that by simply minimizing the participants. And then everybody except for the instructor, the moderator, will appear at the top, and you will hide everything else. And you can keep the chat visible. And you can do the same for the audio and video feed as well. Now, if the instructor wants you to use the whiteboard, this icon here means that the whiteboard is active. And it looks like this. And you've got some tools you can use to kind of play around with things. You can make a text box by clicking on the little X here and then dragging your text window and simply typing. When you type, you can select your text and you can change the font, the point, you can italicize, underline, even change the font color. You can draw lines, and you can choose the stroke thickness and the color, if you so choose. You can draw like you're drawing a pencil, and again you can choose the stroke thickness down here. You can point to an area if you want, so wherever you click, that's where your icon will go. And you do have to left click for the icon to actually appear there, so there's that. And you can do some other things too. And then this little icon here, the move icon, allows you to select any of these smart objects or elements, and then you can move them around if you want to. Now, do know that the instructor can see who is doing what. So your actions are always transparent to the instructor, even if they're not to you. So don't draw anything offensive or profane, because the instructor will know very quickly who is doing it. And then if the instructor is sharing a PowerPoint with you or their computer screen, you're going to see that in this space right here. And so these are really the four main areas of the Collaborate window. You might want to check periodically for a new tab below chat. If you see a tab appears because somebody has given you an instant message. Now, unless your instructor tells you otherwise, they can go in the back end and see all of your private messages. So again, don't be profane or offensive. Just be professional. You are in class, even if it's online. And the same rules of etiquette apply, whether you're face-to-face or in a virtual space. And then last but not least, your audio and video. How do you make sure it's actually working? Well, to talk, you have to come over here and press the talk button once. When you do, you will see the person who is talking appear right here. If their video feed is not live, you'll just see their name. And your microphone bar here will move back and forth. And you can adjust your microphone volume by dragging the slider over to the right. So right is louder, left is softer. And by default, Blackboard will automatically adjust your voice volume, which can be kind of obnoxious. So I'll show you how to change that in the same location you would go to actually set your audio input device in case it's not working. Now to stop talking, you have to then click on this talk button once again. And you will see that now I'm no longer talking. While you are talking, you will have this microphone icon appear next to your name that indicates who is talking, so the instructor can always zero in on whoever is speaking. And this is useful in case you forget to mute your mic. And then for video, it's the same idea. To begin sharing your video, you just click on the video feed. And then if you have a working webcam, in this case you're going to see my office door, you would now have, in this case, a webcam icon as well. So whoever is showing video has a webcam icon, whoever has a live mic will have the mic icon, and whoever is typing will have the little chat bubble icon. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Usually the hardest part is just getting into the room in the first place, but once you're here, you're good to go. And then as I promised, how do you actually change any of these settings like connection speed or your video or your audio? That's going to be down here under Tools. So under Tools, we have a scary amount of options, most of which you are never ever going to use, and most of which you can't even use anyway because you're not moderators. These are more for the instructor. But for audio, you would have the audio setup wizard, which should appear the very first time you use Blackboard. But you can always get back to it by going to Tools, and then Audio Setup Wizard. Or if you want to just focus on a specific aspect of the wizard, like the microphone or the speakers, so Input, Output. For input, if we click on Microphone Settings, this is where you can choose the device that matches your computer, just by selecting it. And you're going to notice that down here we have a checkbox for Adjust Microphone Volume Automatically. I prefer to keep this unchecked because for me and my hardware, it gives a much more consistent experience to other people trying to listen to me. So I would suggest you also disable this, and it should be a one-time feature within the Blackboard installer, and it should carry over to all of your other future Blackboard sessions. But you might want to check here a few times just to make sure that it is or is not. Once you are ready to go ahead and click Apply if you've made changes. And then the same for the camera. So the camera settings. This is where you get to choose your camera. If your camera is not showing up, then you have a hardware issue on your computer that might not be tied to Collaborate. It could be tied to Windows itself or your Mac or even your hardware. Maybe the camera's turned off or not plugged in. That you might need some help to troubleshoot. But this is where you can go to adjust your camera and your microphone if you want to. And if you're feeling particularly ambitious, you can go over under the General section for audible notifications, and you can play sounds whenever somebody raises a hand, whether their microphone is turned on or off. When a hand's lowered, when a hand is raised, when someone sends a chat message, you can customize this pretty far. And then to adjust your connection speed if you have to. That's going to be in the same preferences window under the section for session. On connection, we've got connection and leaving. So for connection, this is where you change your connection speed to whatever matches your internet. Most of you should not be on dial-up, but you could. If you were, all you would hear is audio. You would not see any webcam feeds. You would not see the whiteboard. You would just have audio only. And you might want to use the audio conference feature for Collaborate instead, because it will probably sound better for you. So most of you are going to be at least wireless or better. And we do have a section on testing your bandwidth in a different module, so I won't go over how you can tell here. Just know that this is where you change your connection speed. And you can prompt for it to check never, always, or when your location changes. So again, even though the meeting.collab files are all different, even though they have the same stupid name, the launcher itself that launches these files is able to save some of your preferences despite those unique .collab files. And again, this is all in the preferences window, and you get to this window by going to any of these tools here. Most of these options all link up to that preferences window in one spot. Now, if the instructor has made you a moderator, you have the option of doing a web tour, which if you go to web tour, this is kind of like a virtual web browser. So we could go somewhere like google.com. And as long as this follow me is checked, let's say I search for these random characters. This will open up a virtual web browser on each participant's Collaborate window. So you can basically guide them on the internet in real time, which is great. What you can't do is you can't actually watch a YouTube video. So like if we go to any of these YouTube videos and we try playing it, they will play the video on their own, but they have to actually click play. So when you play locally, it will not play for them. So there is that nuance to be aware of. And then if you're asked to share your screen or share an application, what I like to do is I always like to click on the whiteboard first. This whiteboard icon basically resets any media sharing properties that Collaborate is going through. And then I go over to this icon in the middle here, middle top, for application sharing. When you click that, you have the option to share your desktop. Or if you had any applications that were open on that window, you could share just that one application. Then you go ahead and click share, and then whatever you do, people can see. Now, the refresh rate is pretty slow depending on your connection. So you might have to, wait 2 or 3 seconds for people to actually see what you are seeing on your screen. It's not going to be in real time. And as an example here, we have my screen being shared, and you can tell because there's a yellow border around my monitor. And you're going to see it on part of my screen. My screen's too big for this HD capture, but you can see that there's a yellow border along the edge here, and I have a stop and pause button and a picture icon. If I click on this camera, I'll actually take a screenshot that will copy itself to our whiteboard, and we can access this screenshot anytime later. And you can pause the share, or to stop it outright, simply click on this little button here, this stop icon. The border goes away, and now we are back at this window right here. And now we're still going to be in the application sharing. So again, once you're done sharing your screen, always come back to this whiteboard, because that just resets everything. It keeps everything nice and clean. It avoids any weird issues or errors while trying to share or switch content sharers or users. And you're good to go. That's pretty much the basics for navigating and utilizing this Collaborate web conferencing environment.